I have loved her for years. Not secretly, not suddenly, but quietly, patiently, in a way that did not need permission from the world. This is the sentence that stopped time for millions of fans. The words no one expected Dylan Wang to say out loud. The confession that rewrote every rumor, every denial, every moment of silence that once felt confusing or even cruel. And the question it leaves behind is impossible to ignore. How do you love someone for years without the world ever truly noticing? Right now, right before the next revelation, is your chance to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful story, another shocking twist, or another unforgettable journey. This is not the story of a sudden romance. This is the story of a love that grew in the shadows of fame. For a long time, Dylan Wang was seen as untouchable, a rising star surrounded by noise, expectations, and carefully controlled narratives. Every move was analyzed. Every interaction turned into speculation. Love, for him, became something dangerous, something that could be misunderstood, distorted, or destroyed before it ever had the chance to breathe. And yet, through all of that, Shen Yue was there, not as a headline, not as a strategy, but as a constant. In his emotional confession, Dylan revealed that his feelings for Shen Yue did not arrive with fireworks. They arrived slowly, almost invisibly, built through shared days, long conversations, and moments that never made it online. He spoke of a bond that formed before he even realized it was love. I didn't fall, he admitted. I stayed. That distinction matters. Because falling is dramatic. Falling is loud. Staying is a choice you make again and again when no one is watching. He described how, over the years, Shen Yue became the person he turned to when the world felt overwhelming. Not for advice. Not for validation. But for grounding. For normalcy. For truth. She reminded him that before he was a star, he was just a person trying to figure things out. There were moments, he said, when he wanted to speak, when he wanted to protect her from rumors by telling the truth. But love, he learned, is not always proven by words. Sometimes it is proven by restraint. He chose silence because he chose her safety, and that silence was misinterpreted. Fans questioned his distance. Media painted uncertainty. Narratives formed without his consent. But what Dylan carried privately was something far deeper than confusion. It was devotion without an audience. He confessed that loving Shen Yue meant accepting that the timing would never be perfect, that there would always be a reason to wait, a project, a scandal, a wave of public opinion that could drown something real before it ever had a chance to surface. She never rushed me, he said, and that's how I knew. Because love that demands urgency often demands sacrifice. Shen Yue never asked him to choose her at the cost of his career, his peace, or his readiness. She allowed him to grow into the truth instead of forcing it out of him. Years passed this way. Years where love existed between the lines. In shared meals. In quiet support. In understanding glances that didn't need to be explained. And through it all, Dylan said, his feelings never faded. They deepened. When asked why he finally spoke, his answer was simple. I didn't want my silence to be mistaken for absence. He wanted the world to know that what they were seeing now was not new. It was not impulsive. It was the result of years of choosing the same person, even when choosing her meant choosing patience. This confession was not a declaration meant to impress. It was a release, a letting go of fear, a moment of honesty after years of protection. And perhaps the most powerful part of his words came at the end. I loved her before anyone asked me to explain why. That sentence holds everything. It explains the calm, the certainty, the lack of regret. This is not a man chasing a feeling. This is a man honoring a history. So when Dylan Wang says he has loved Shen Yue for years, he is not revealing a secret romance. He is revealing the truth behind the silence. A love that did not need to be loud to be real. A love that survived waiting. A love that chose depth over drama. And now that it has finally been spoken, it no longer belongs to speculation. It belongs to the story as it truly is. And even after the confession echoed across headlines and screens, the story still wasn't finished. Because loving someone for years does not come without cost. And Wang finally spoke about that cost. He admitted that there were moments he almost walked away. Not because the love wasn't strong enough, but because the pressure was unbearable. Loving Shen Yue meant living with constant restraint. It meant watching narratives form that erased her presence entirely. It meant hearing his name paired with others while the truth remained unspoken. There were days I wondered if staying quiet was hurting her more than protecting her, he said. That doubt haunted him. But every time he considered stepping back, Shen Yue did something that pulled him closer instead. She trusted him. She believed that truth, even delayed, was still truth. And that kind of trust, Dylan confessed, changed the way he understood love forever. He spoke about guilt, about how loving her in silence sometimes felt unfair, about how she never complained, never demanded reassurance in public ways, never asked him to defend her name. Instead, she lived her life with dignity, allowing love to exist without proof. She didn't need the world to know, he said. She only needed me to be real. And that realization shook him. Because fame teaches people to perform love, to announce it, to prove it. But Shen Yue taught him something radically different. That love can exist quietly and still be complete. That it can survive without applause. Dylan revealed that during some of the most confusing periods of his career, Shen Yue was the only person who reminded him that he was allowed to be uncertain. That he didn't need to have everything figured out to be worthy of love. She saw me before I became who everyone thinks I am, he said. And she never asked me to stay the same. That line alone explains the years. It explains why he waited. Why he endured misunderstanding. Why he chose patience over instant clarity. When he finally decided to speak, it wasn't because the rumors had grown louder. It was because he had grown stronger. Strong enough to accept that love cannot be protected forever by silence. Strong enough to let the truth stand on its own, even if it disappointed people. He acknowledged that some fans would feel betrayed, that some would mourn a story they believed in. And he didn't dismiss that pain. He respected it. But he was clear about one thing. I can't live a life written by expectations that aren't mine. Those words marked a turning point. Because this confession wasn't just about Shen Yue. It was about reclaiming agency. About choosing a future that felt honest rather than impressive. He ended his reflection with a quiet certainty. If I had to wait all those years again, he said, I would. Because she was never a moment. She was the journey. And in that sentence, everything settled. This was never a sudden announcement. Never a publicity moment. Never a dramatic reveal. It was the closing of a long chapter written in patience and trust. A love that endured invisibility. A love that chose depth over noise. A love that finally stepped into the light, not to convince the world, but to tell the truth. And now that it has been spoken, it no longer needs defending. It simply exists.